Welcome back to Extra Shot. Another great discussion we've just heard here at the DSP Leaders World Forum 2023. I'm here with Mark Newman. Mark is Chief Analyst at TM Forum. Mark, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
And Mark, you haven't played pinball yet.
So it's on the agenda, so when I stop talking to people I shall go and have a wander over, but I'm not going to win. I never was very good.
Oh, what a defeatist
Do my best.
attitude to start with. We've got this lovely trophy here for the winner. Well, we have no doubt about his identity. It's probably going to be Neil McRae yet again. But Mark, first of all, I wanted to know why it was important for you to be here at the DSP Leader World Forum. You've been here before. It's not the first time.
Yeah, I've been here before, and as an analyst, I try to cover everything in telco strategy, all the way from the technology side through to the commercial side, the lines of business. So this event captures all of that, so being able to hear so many people, so many opinions just in 1 day, 2 days is very, very valuable for me.
So it's a great platform for you to gather intelligence and connect with the industry, of
course.
And
meet up with old friends. So often it's, I think that's what we missed during lockdown, which was the sort of the odd snatch 5-minute conversation in the corridor. You can arrange half-hour meetings, but getting that sort of chance meeting is great.
And it's not a bad setup, is it?
We really can't complain, being in lovely Windsor.
So, Mark, the previous discussion panel here was about data and APIs and how important they are for telcos to become digital services providers. So what were the highlights of the conversation for you?
So I think this topic around APIs, exposing APIs, has become probably the topic of 2023. At Mobile World Congress this year, GSMA launched the Open Gateway Initiative. So the idea is that operators open up their networks to developers, and developers then use connectivity to build their own products and services. So it's a very live topic. And I think we're digging in a little bit deeper into what it really means and where telcos fit. And I think on the stage today we had 3 operators, we had Microsoft, we had Red Hat, so all the different players working out precisely what role to play. But I think when we start thinking about software, exposure of services, it's taking telcos into the world of software and IT, which is not where they've traditionally been. So telcos are just experimenting and learning to try and fail and break things and move on.
Well, it's easy to try and fail when you're a small business, when you're a startup, and when you're a large company, that's much harder, isn't it?
And I think that's a problem that, the average telco executive, if they do something wrong, they're scared about their job. So I think the cultural aspect of transformation is one that doesn't go away. And we hear it time after time from the speaker here, which is that technology, yes, it's challenging, it's complex, it's difficult, but that's not the real problem. The problem is culture and how people behave and how people are rewarded, and that requires a big change in mindset across the whole organization.
So it's not just about the system, it's actually about the people. They're getting a little bit too comfortable?
Well, it's all about people, and it's about hierarchies, and it's about, I think we heard earlier this morning, discussion around, we need to move to a situation where you don't just aspire to manage hundreds of people. You aspire to be a great software engineer and you get paid for that. So it's about having flatter organizations, rewarding people in different ways, and more of a software culture, bringing in younger people, younger staff, training them up. So it's a complete mindset shift, it's a cultural shift. It's uncomfortable because there's, I think many of the employees, they'll be worried about their futures. We talk about automation and AI, they're worried about having their jobs in a more automated way. So it's a real balancing act for telcos, which is bringing about this change, this transformation, at the same time not making that too scary for the people that work in the organization, and helping to be part of that change.
The industry is aging a bit, isn't it?
The industry is really aging.
I mean, let's face it, someone at the start of today's conversations actually asked if there were any Gen Zs in the room, or even millennials, and no one raised their hands, right?
Well, exactly. So I started this industry back in the days of GSM, which was the late 1980s. And it was a young industry. And I've kind of grown older with the industry, as have many people here. And so, relating that to the point that we just discussed, which is that the average telco, people who are sort of 45, 50, 55, 60, It's not really a culture that young people feel particularly comfortable in.
Now, Mark, you're staying with us because before we go, we'd like to talk to Yanni across the room. Yanni, over to you. Welcome back to Extra Shot. We're still with Mark Newman of TM Forum, but we have been joined by a new guest. It's Alex Foster, who's director at BT Division X. I'd like to welcome you to the DSP Leaders World Forum because it's the first time for you, isn't it?
It is, and it's super exciting. I mean, you can just feel the energy of everybody being physically together. There is something, I think, about actually being able to have those face-to-face conversations, whether it's over the coffee bar or over pinball or just actually over a coffee once the panels have finished, to really talk through what has been talked through, whether you agree, whether you disagree, and just the whole ecosystem is here. You know, the providers are here, you know, your competitor telcos, but actually your collaborators as well, because so much of the time we think we compete, but so much of the time we actually collaborate together. So the excitement of meeting some of my co-collaborators right the way across the ecosystem is a real delight.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. Mark, you've been here before, of course. We talked about it just before the break. Any advice for Alex?
In terms of?
How to make the most of the forum?
In terms of this event?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so, I mean, the thing that I missed most during lockdown was just having an odd 5-minute conversation here and there and just picking up odd bits and pieces. I mean, I've seen you walking around and meeting people. That's all that you can do is just meet new people, catch up with old friends. I mean, I think the thing I like most about this event is it covers so much, and I like having 6-7 people on the stage giving different views, catching up with them after. It's a very good sized event because often if it's too big an event, someone walks off the stage and they disappear, but here you can grab them and take 5 minutes with them. So yeah, it's been some, and as you say, a good mixture of traditional telcos and then some of the software companies, cloud companies, traditional vendors. So yeah, it's a real ecosystem.
Well, we've got the end to end as far as the ecosystem is concerned, and we've got the end to end in terms of topics. You know, we started with optimization and efficiency, and then we moved to talent, and then we've moved on to data and AI, and it's almost like when you have a look at actually the curriculum for the next couple of days. Curriculum? Do we say the word curriculum? Maybe not. Well, the content, the content for the next 2 days. It does. I mean, because every day's a learning day, is it not? So perhaps that's why I'm feeling it's a little bit like a school curriculum. But actually, you've got a journey in terms of the content that actually fits in quite nicely with the participants as well.
I'd say the one theme that I think unites a lot of what you're about today is about the DNA of the telco, about the telco as an organisation and its culture, its fabric, the sort of technology focus. So it's all about changing the telecoms organisation in order to be able to create new opportunities for the business. I think there's acceptance now that until telecoms operators change what they are, who they are, how they behave, it's been very hard to push into these new areas. And I think at least we recognise the challenge ahead.
I loved on one of the first panels this morning the rallying cry of dare to change. The piece around daring to change in terms of mindset, daring to change in terms of technology, engineering, people leadership, and all of that coming together as part of the dare.
Absolutely. And going back to the first session we're having today about attracting and retaining new skills within the industry, your own story actually, Alex, is very interesting because you're fairly atypical for the industry. First of all, you are a woman, okay? Let's face it, I mean there is a slight issue on that front. And second, you do not come from the telecoms sector, you come from financial services. So you have to move across industries. So tell us about your journey, what you've learned and why you are suited to a career in telecoms.
Well, yes, I started my career in financial services, and as financial services grew in and of itself, you had that coalition of technology, market structure, and really needing to understand all of that to be able to participate in financial services. And then coming into the telco area, actually, particularly coming in when I first came into to BT in a financial services role, actually I was able to take the learning from financial services into the telco world. But actually, as I think one of the participants said, sometimes as an industry, we're not good enough about shouting about the exciting things that we do. All of the companies here at DSP Leaders, we're all innovating. We're all creating new possibilities, new businesses. And actually for me, that's one of the things that I love the most. So that fast pace that we had on the trading floor, actually in many senses is now replicated in terms of the fast pace of innovation, bringing change to the industry. And for me, that gives me huge excitement every day.
I think it's very interesting that you come from that background, because often when people talk about telecoms and what we should compare ourselves with, telcos would like to compare themselves with the hyperscale service providers. We know that's not very realistic. I often say that telcos should compare themselves with financial services companies, because I think they occupy a similar place in people's psyche. And what I think is interesting about financial service companies is they've been forced to digitize in terms of end user services because of competition. I think it must be very interesting to have seen what's happened in financial services and see where telco is. So my question to you, if you don't mind my asking a question, my question is, who's further ahead in terms of transformation, telco or financial services?
Well, it depends whether you think that they're on a parallel journey. I think it might be somewhat a little bit like, the M6.
Yeah.
There are two. There's the toll road version and there's the regular road version. They're both going in the same direction. One's going at a slightly faster pace, partly based on, there's a coin-operated piece around that, but they're both going in that same direction, both transforming and both digitizing as fast as they possibly can.
We'll see who gets there first.
And going back to the session we've just had here at the forum, it was about data and APIs and how we can harness them to really help telco companies become digital services providers. You were one of the panelists, Alex, so what was your key message?
For me, we started this conversation talking about ecosystems, and it's absolutely around the ecosystem coming together to be able to ingest data, ingest those core data pieces from 5G to be able to innovate, co-create and co-collaborate. There was lots of talk about the relationships with some of the cloud providers on the panels as well, and I talked about Sean from Microsoft and feeling like I got a symbiosis and that I'd got almost like a co-joined twin with him in terms of him being a partner or any of the other cloud providers out there. So it's around the ecosystem innovating and creating together to be able to create a really phenomenal environment for developers to be able to innovate, to grow new businesses and create new wealth for the country.
And before welcoming you to Extra Shot for the second half of our discussion, with Mark we were talking about how difficult it can be for large telcos in particular to change and to change their mindsets and to change people. Coming from BT, which is such a giant in the world of telecoms, have you found it difficult to change people?
I think the excitement comes on from that internal messaging as much as anything around everything that we are doing to innovate. At BT, the team over at Adastral Park, they're innovating on a daily basis, and it's about making sure that that excitement that we've got from our innovation is brought through to the rest of the organisation, and then we take that message out to market. And actually, when you start to think about some of the things that we're doing, 5G, the teams in Adastral looking at the latest on 6G, and then when you start to think about the applications of that, I was in a port the other day, climbing up a crane, looking at seeing what we can do with digital vision, looking at what we can do when I was in a stadium, looking at actually how we're measuring footfalls. It's just the excitement of creating new possibilities with technology and harnessing not only my own excitement but everybody's excitement, and then you get that energy through the organisation. You know, it's about, you know, bright technology and brilliant talent.
Passion. I think it's about passion, isn't it? And you certainly have a lot of it. Thank you so much, Alex. Yes. Barney is desperate to be back in front of the cameras here. But I'd like to thank you both for being here today. It's slightly frustrating for me to have to wrap up this conversation because I had so many more questions for you. But thank you anyway for being with us. We are now going to switch to the next session, and the last session of the day. It's called The Latest Career Conundrum: How to Enhance Service Innovation and Delivery while Improving Energy Efficiency. All right, so over to you guys on the main stage.